Afternoon. So a couple things I want to get out of the way. First of all, we had some players of the week. Jaden Daniels, back-to-back. Obviously, we had the off week, but back-to-back SEC Offensive Player of the Week. And then we had Freshman of the Week, Mason Taylor. Pretty good selection there, I would say. And then Defensive Player Harold Perkins. So congratulations to those guys based upon their play. Just a great atmosphere in Tiger Stadium. I think our fans were, obviously a great motivating factor to creating, one of those environments that, you all talk about, but, you want to be able to be part of it. And I think, our players fed off of that, and certainly we had talked about it Thursday that, when we were in the stadium that, they're going to be out there, but your performance will dictate the kind of involvement that our crowd has. And it's going to require play in and play out a sustained effort. And I think that sustained effort by our football team created that sustained atmosphere in our stadium. It wasn't an up and down kind of involvement. It was every single play. Our crowd was active and involved, and I think it had a lot to do with the kind of play that our players were involved in, and that was a consistency that was really good to see. So, really good win. Our guys got 24 hours to enjoy it, and now our focus is on another SEC opponent on the road. Arkansas, it's the Golden Boot, another rivalry trophy. Of course, they hold the trophy from last year's 16-13 win at Tiger Stadium. And, obviously playing a team that has a very prolific offense. And in terms of players, it starts with their quarterback. I think it's the fifth time now we've seen a big physical quarterback. KJ Jefferson, 6'3", 240. He's got 17 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a handful. Another guy that we've got to be able to control what he does and get him on the ground. Sanders, Raheem, the running back, probably the biggest back that we'll see. 6'2", 227, leads the SEC in rushing. He's got over 1,000 yards. So that 1-2 combination with arguably the best center in all of college football in Stromberg, a very good scheme, accomplished SEC wide receivers. This is a really good offense that we're going to have to slow down. And Sam Pittman, I have a great deal of respect for him. A very good football coach. He'll have his football team ready to go. Drew Sanders on defense leads the SEC in sacks with 7.5 sacks. Really good football player, and they do a lot of really good things with him. He plays inside, but they move him to an outside position where he can come off the edge. We'll have to be able to account for him. Got a couple former LSU players in their starting defense, Landon Jackson, Dwight McLaughlin, good football players that obviously are playing well for them. And their special teams is really good. They do a lot of different things that we'll have to be alert for, be on top of, and make sure that we do a really good job. We're trending better there. We're going to have to continue to do a really good job. We've got 11 a.m. kickoff. All those things, we're used to it. We've played it early, but we've got to obviously be able to focus on our next opponent, which I'm certain we'll be able to do that with the kind of quality SEC opponent we have in Arkansas. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Brian, in the middle by the cameras.
Yeah.
Was Saturday night the biggest one of your career?
The biggest win of my career is going to be when we win a national championship. And so I'm focused on one thing when I came down here, and that's to win championships. That's one game. It was an exciting win, but I don't put it in the category of the biggest. I think I've had teams that have achieved great things, and I think this team achieved a great victory because of where we were in January and what we've become. And so maybe for me, probably as satisfying as a win for a group of guys that have committed themselves to a process and in that time have achieved a lot.
Coach, when Mason Smith went down on that first defensive series of the year, you talked about DT depth being something you'd have to monitor. What's your view of how Wingo and Jaquelin Roy have played this year as kind of a couple unsung heroes there in the middle?
Yeah, obviously, I think that, anytime you lose a stalwart like Mason, there's cause for concern. But I think what we've done really well is mix up the front. We've played some 3 down to take the pressure off of losing a player of that caliber. And by doing so, have been able to rotate that defensive tackle position with 3 down and 4 down. And by doing so, obviously, you're playing with one nose. And I think that's really helped us a lot. So the loss was great, but I think we've managed it by being smart and tactical defensively. And those 2 guys have been outstanding.
Coach in the middle right here, how impressed were you with your offensive line just throughout the game having to adjust to Bama's different blitzing looks?
Yeah, they did a good job. There's no doubt. I mean, I think, Brad has done a really good job of developing those guys week in and week out. I think our backs have helped. Our tight ends helped in protection. It's not just those 5 guys, but, clearly, the biggest concern we had was their 2 end pass rushers. And you got to give credit to the 2 freshmen. Emery and Will just do an incredible job playing and play out, focusing and refocusing, letting the play go, and coming back to the next play, and just with all-out effort, sustained all-out effort. And so it is 5 guys, but a lot of that emphasis is on O-line awareness, and the guards are helping, the center's helping. But again, I would say overall, just real good awareness up front and helping each other.
Coach, right over here. Just what's the status of Armani Goodwin and just how the running back room is kind of shaking out going into the final quarter of the season?
He's doing well. Came back from a tough injury. I think, when you look at certain games, Coach Wilson has a sense of, who he wants to go with, and he felt like, he had a 1-2 combination that he wanted to stick with, much more physical group in there. But Amani can play physical as well. I think he was more interested in we did so much chipping with those backs. He wanted a bigger presence in there, but we have great confidence and faith in Amani and expect to see him, continue to help us down the road.
Hey, Brian, there's always a lot of focus from us in the media, new offensive concepts and philosophies and that sort of thing, but look at the 2 teams leading the divisions, and it seems like y'all both place a lot of emphasis on defense and running the ball successfully. Just talk about how the bedrock of winning, has it changed that much, you think?
Look, I've been doing it a long time, and I know that there are times where, prolific offenses, certainly get you, a lot of wins. This is about not winning. This is about winning championships, and it's my belief that winning championships still, you've got to control the line of scrimmage at the end of the day. And so controlling the line of scrimmage is stopping the run and running the football effectively and exerting your will. So there has to be a physicality about what you do. I still think you can win games throwing the football, and we'll have to win games, with that kind of offense. I said that earlier in the year. You can't win games throwing the ball for 85 yards. Then we came back and threw it for over 300. But the point I'm making is physicality starts and ends with stopping the run and running the football, and we're doing a better job there.
Brian, with Harold Perkins this year, what have you seen in terms of just how and why he's been able to just handle everything that kind of comes with being a freshman and playing as well as he has this early?
I think quite honestly. He's got the makeup to do that. He's a mature kid. I was talking to a couple of our coaches about him. He's a bit of a throwback, and a throwback in this sense. Just tell me what I need to do. I don't need all the other things, and I'll figure it out as I go. It's kind of refreshing. He doesn't need to know all the whys, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't give the whys to our guys, and that's part of coaching today. You've got to explain a lot of things. He doesn't need a lot of the whys. Just point me in the right direction. I'll figure it out, and that's Harold Perkins. He knows he's not perfect, but he makes up for a lot of those things with his athletic ability. So, I think that Matt's done a great job of kind of meeting him halfway with some of the things that he's not ready to do, but leaning heavily on some of the things that he has that are, innate traits that can come in and help us win right away. And I think part of it is he's a bit of a throwback in that you don't have to explain everything. Just line up here, do this, and you'll be fine.
Coach, I got two quick ones, if you will. Everybody kind of wants to see behind the curtain. Was there an anecdote, a moment, a picture, or a joke, something somebody shared with you after the game that resonates with you? And then just, you talked about the moment from January to now. Are you at all surprised at the buy-in? That's the easiest way to describe it, but to have this many different transfers, guys that you didn't coach, commit to a new staff, is that the most striking accomplishment?
Anecdotals, anything that happened after the game. I can't think of anything. I think I was just so happy for our players, and there were a couple of guys that texted me and said they were happy to continue to do that and have people rush the field, and they would take care of what the costs were. I don't know if Scott needs to hear that, or Kelly's here. She probably doesn't want to hear that either. But there's some of those that come along the line. But I think more your second question is probably the question I'd spend time on answering. And I've said this, and that the biggest thing this year is that they have jumped in the deep end and really didn't know how to swim. But they were not going to drown. They were going to find a way to stay above water and kicking and doing whatever is necessary. And that's kind of built this fight in them, this toughness in them. And they haven't been perfect, and certainly we're not there yet. But they have such a pride in LSU. And when we first met, we said, look, we finished last, and that's not the standard. And you have a choice to do something about it. You can continue to be bad. You can be average. You can be good, which everybody in this room is good, or you can be elite. And they've made great choices along the way, so I'm really proud of them.
Coach, is this a trap game, classic trap game here?
I guess. I guess that's what they call it. I've never bought into that, because I think if it's a trap game, you have not done a very good job with your football team. In January and February, for example, January, February, March, we did not train indoors. We trained outdoors. So weather's not going to be a factor. We've been outside in 50-degree, 40-degree weather. They know that, Arkansas is an SEC opponent that beat them last year. So, look, your thoughts affect, your actions, right? That affect your physiological response. So we've been working on how we think since day one, and it becomes a trap game if you're not thinking right. And we'll get our guys thinking the right way, and we'll prepare the right way. And this is about a consistency. If they want to be a consistent program, they'll think the right way about this game.
Hey, Coach, what has really allowed your run game, specifically Josh Williams, to flourish these past couple of weeks?
Well, I think we're opportunistic. We're not, look, we're, I think, about 185 yards a game, which is, the top third in the league. That's where we want to be. We're not we're not where we need to be yet. We're getting better physically, but I think, when you have a multi-dimensional threat like the quarterback, he provides you opportunities in the running game where he stretches the defense out. And when he does that, you have to worry about the quarterback. And, examples where the linebackers have to flow over the top. That creates some seams and opportunities. So it's part of the system in itself. We're not running duo every play downhill, direct snap, and just, knocking people back every time. But we're getting better at that. And I think it's just, we're committed to the run. We ran the ball late with efficiency. I just think there's a commitment there is why we've been effective.
You might have just already pretty much answered this, but coming off such an emotional win, in your experience, have you learned there's a best way to get them to think the right way you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You're preparing for these moments in the first week. You handle these by being consistent in everything that you do every single day. And nothing changed last week in the way we prepared, and nothing will change this week. I think if there's, if we had a lot of fanfare and sloganisms and changed a lot last week for Alabama, then maybe you worry about it a little bit. But we didn't do anything different last week than we did for Ole Miss or we did for any of the other teams. Our team is just evolving, and they're playing with more of the traits necessary to be a consistent team that plays every snap the right way. So I think I'd be more concerned if we, played with so much emotion that we were drained out, but that's how we're going to play. And that's kind of why I went for it. I felt like our football team's going to do this more often. I trusted the way they played, and I trusted that they were going to execute the play that we called. And I trust that they're going to execute next week because they've been consistent over the past 5 months, and I expect them to do the same.
Hey, Coach, winning the SEC West, now that it's truly in sight, is that something that's discussed this week, or is it kind of the Alabama thing of let's not treat this any differently because of something on the outside?
Yeah, so there's, our goal is to graduate champions. So part of this is they want to be champions, and they know that there are steps along the way in this process of getting there. And so this week will be another step towards becoming a champion. And so let's do the things that we need to do. And it starts with today, being early, being on time, making sure that they're intentional about everything we do. So, yeah, the championships are important. That's what they're here for. And getting to class today is what they're here for. So it definitely starts, but, we're not going to walk in with a PowerPoint on the SEC championship race and who's got what and all those things. But, yeah, it's there. It's out there. They know what they're going for.
Hey, Coach, right here. The growth with Jaden has been pretty rapid these last several weeks, but just what kind of role does Joe Sloan play in all of that? I mean, can you speak to just the effect that he specifically has had on Jaden, even in the last, month or so?
Yeah, so, I'm with Joe every day, and he's a great communicator. So what are the really good tenets of great teachers and great mentors? He cares about his players. He has great relationships with everyone in that room. They trust him. He provides the information differently for each one as to how they learn. He's knowledgeable about the things that he needs to get across to each one of those quarterbacks. He's demanding, never demeaning. He's all the things necessary to develop quarterbacks, and he's done a great job.
Hey, Brian, would you mind just sharing a thought on Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks, what they've meant this year for you and what it's like for them going back to Fayetteville?
Yeah, so certainly this will be a big thing for them going back to Fayetteville as transfers. But, first and foremost, what was appealing to us as we were putting this back together was to have SEC experience and a connection with the state of Louisiana. And both of those guys filled that box and checked that box for us. So what it means to them is that they play for LSU, and they have such a pride in being from the state of Louisiana. And they want the Golden Boot back. And so as much as they'll have friends and former players that they know, this will be much more about them wanting to win for LSU, because that's why they came back here.
Hey, Coach, two quick ones. What kind of growth have you seen from Mason Taylor throughout his freshman year? And do you have an update on Garrett Dellinger's status for this week?
So there's been growth, physically and mentally. He's a freshman. And as you know, freshmen are, growing physically. And the first big thing is, he's put on over 20 pounds, physically, and growing into his body. I think the growth, from a mental standpoint has been the knowledge of the game. He's been really good. I'd be remiss, to not point out the fact that, he's been put in a very difficult position where, a tight end has to do a lot, and we've been very fortunate to have an analyst that has great experience at that position in Terry Malone. I think Terry Malone's an unsung hero for us on our staff, and Terry was with the New Orleans Saints. He's coached the tight end position. He's been an offensive coordinator, and to have an asset like that to assist Coach Denbrock on a day-to-day basis has really helped develop Mason, and Terry's done a really good job. So having that mentor, having that person that's there, he can't coach him, but he's there as a mentor every single day. That's really, really big in his development. Garrett Dellinger looked good. We worked him out yesterday. Much better. I think he's in a great position that he could play this weekend.
Hey, Coach, just right here. Since you guys already have the experience of playing a team like Florida with a big physical quarterback who can run, does having that experience or help you this week against a guy like KJ Jefferson?
Yeah, each one of them has been a little bit different. I was just jotting down. I mean, we've had 5 of the guys that have been real big. Even Jackson Dart was a big kid too. It just seems like every quarterback that we've run into this year has been a big physical quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, again, he's a guy that they want to run, throw. They don't. He's going to be actively involved in the run game. They're not afraid to run him at any time. We've seen him take off at the 5-yard line in the air. I mean, he's a physical player. So, again, we're going to have to do a really good job of containing him.
Coach, going back to Alabama, there were several things the other night, late in the game into overtime, that in the past in the series could have been the, oh no, here we go again moment that deflated the team and deflated the stadium. But each time your team responded to that. I mean, is that kind of speaking to them not blinking and the adversity that they've overcome all year?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, I get a pulse of a team, and I don't think that there's been a time this year that they haven't felt like they were going to come out victorious in some fashion. And that resolve, that resiliency is kind of baked into them. And they just keep playing. So, again, those are the things that you feel on the sideline when you go up and down. We came out of coverage one time all night, and it was catastrophic. And I went up to the defensive backs. I said, listen, it's going to happen again because we're going to score here. So when we score, stay in coverage. He's going to scramble, stay in coverage. And they did a great job. They responded well, and again, I just think that their resolve has been remarkable.
Coach, something that got kind of overshadowed as the game went on was Jarek Bernard Converse's interception and how pivotal that was. What makes him so versatile playing both corner and safety, obviously, who's back at corner?
He's been invaluable in terms of his ability to do some things for us back at that safety position when we were shorthanded in particular. So just steady, right? Every day you know what you're going to get from him. And look, I mean, he would tell you that there are some things that he'd like to do better, but, you know, our observations, he's a guy that has been rock solid for us and consistent. And, you know, obviously we did a really good job of getting in front of Bryce in that situation, kind of screening him, and he threw under duress, and he was in a great position to make a big play.
Just curious about your working relationship with Matt House. Do you turn him loose, let him go? What has impressed you with his ability each week to come up with a great game plan?
Collaboration. You know, I like to collaborate with the defense during the game. He's throwing at me thoughts. You know, what do you think? Should we go here? Should we pressure? Do you like zone? Should we drop 8? So collaboration. Same thing with Mike. You know, I prefer coordinators that, because I'm in the game, that we're having collaboration during the game. Great. All right. Thank you.